Today I'm making... Okay, the recipe is a variation on gingerbread, but there's no ginger in it, so I named it a Christmas spice bread. I hope you like store anise. There is a lot of it. Start with 10 gram or about half a handful of store anise. You'll also need coconut oil, sugar, an orange, a lemon, flour, honey. I'm using artificial honey. If you would like a recipe for artificial honey, check out a cookie recipe I published last year that calls for it. I'll link it in the description below. This recipe is best started the day before, so the store anise has time to infuse. Get a small pot with 150 ml of water, add the sugar, the honey and the coconut oil. And finally, the store anise. Take the pot to the stove and warm it on a low heat until the coconut oil melts and the sugar dissolves, but not so hot that it boils. Keep the mix on the stove for 10 minutes. Then take it off the heat and allow to infuse either overnight or at least a couple of hours. Once you're happy the store anise has developed, filter out the pieces. Next up, zest the citrus. When I write my scripts, I really need to remember that I mumble a little, and zest the citrus is hard to say. Grate the peel of 1 lemon and 1 orange. That's better. Get out a big bowl and sift together flour, baking powder and dry spices. Add the grated peels. Then add the anise-infused liquid bit by bit and stir into a dough. Beware of lumps. Grab a loaf tin and a piece of baking paper. Measure the bottom of the tin and fold marks into the baking paper. Cut a piece to fit the bottom of your loaf tin. Once you're happy with the size, take it out and use a dab of coconut oil to grease the tin. Put in the baking paper, which will now stick in place because of the coconut oil. Dust with flour, taking extra care to cover the sides. Pour the dough into the loaf tin. Preheat the oven at 210 degrees Celsius and bake the loaf for 10 minutes. Take it out of the oven and cut the top crust. Turn the oven down to 180 degrees Celsius. Put the loaf back in the oven and bake for 45 minutes. Take the loaf out of the oven and let it cool a few minutes. Run a knife along the edges and flip the loaf out of its tin. Remove the baking paper and flip it right side up again, and let it cool completely. This Christmas spice loaf is best when you wrap it in tin foil and let it sit for a day or two. Thank you so much for watching. If you decide to bake yourself a Christmas spice loaf, let me know how it turned out. And if you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe?